Beyond the gates, spoilers tease that Fairmont Crest harbors a hidden menace, one whose true face none suspect, least of all the very person pointing the finger. Moonlight spilled across the ornate facade of Fairmont Crest, its grand columns and manicured hedges cast in silver shadows that danced with the night breeze. To the casual onlooker, it was a sanctuary, a haven for those seeking comfort and luxury. But beneath the veneer of elegance, something far more sinister had taken root. Leslie Morgan, draped in one of her mother's elaborate wigs, sauntered through the marble lobby with a serene smile playing on her lips. She carried herself like a woman who knew secrets others dared not whisper, and indeed she did. Only hours earlier, she had leaned close to Jacob Hirsch, voice hushed but tinged with amused malice, and confided, "It seems we have a psychopath at Fairmont Crest." Jacob's brow had furrowed, his mind racing through possibilities. A guest gone mad? A staff member with hidden darkness? Leslie's eyes had glinted as she watched him puzzle, and she had allowed him no more clarity. "You'll see," she murmured, a teasing lilt in her voice that suggested she held more knowledge than she cared to share. Across the sprawling grounds, Eva Richardson paced beneath a canopy of privet hedges, her thoughts a tangled web of confusion and dread. The day's events had spun her life into turmoil, the sudden collapse of her sister Laura's health, the whispered rumors of tampering, and the creeping suspicion that someone wanted Laura dead. As she rounded a corner, she almost collided with Leslie, who was adjusting a cascade of auburn curls concealed beneath her latest wig. Leslie's lips curved into a mocking smile. "Careful, Eva. Almost like you're tempting fate." Eva's heart thudded. She remembered too well the rumors that had circulated, whispers that someone had tried to frame her for conspiracies she barely understood. And now Leslie, so innocently attired, seemed to delight in twisting the knife. "You didn't seriously try to throw me to the wolves and pin it on me," Eva said, voice tight with disbelief. "Oh, but I did," Leslie replied, her tone breezy. "You simply couldn't prove otherwise. Made it quite the spectacle, don't you think?" Eva's stomach lurched as she realized the cruel joke. Leslie had orchestrated events so that Eva looked guilty, the victim cast as the villain. For a moment, the rational part of Eva's mind rebelled. Her mother, Jan Morgan, soft-spoken and gentle, could never be capable of such violence, could she? Yet each new piece of evidence pointed back to Jan, and Eva found herself forced to question everything she once believed. But logic demanded proof, and proof was precisely what remained elusive. Inside Laura's suite, Kat Donovan and Laura Richardson sat huddled around a small table strewn with medical journals, security codes, and a half-drunk cup of coffee gone cold. Each page they turned, each file they skimmed, only deepened the puzzle. Someone had injected Laura with potassium, pushing her heart to the brink and causing the terrifying collapse that had nearly killed her. Poisoning in the most subtle, intimate way, an act of intimate betrayal. Kat tapped a finger against her lips as she considered the implications. "We keep coming back to the same conclusion," she said softly. "Leslie Morgan. She's the only one who could have slipped into your room without raising alarms." Laura's eyes went distant, the memory of waking in agony still fresh on her skin. But the wig, her disguises. She's always changing her look. No one would suspect her. Kat leaned forward, voice low and urgent. "That's exactly why she can strike again. She's already in the clear. Now we need proof. Something concrete. Cameras, fingerprints, the motorcycle, anything." The mention of the motorcycle sent Laura's breath hitching. She closed her eyes, recalling the screech of tires the night she was struck. "It was dark," she whispered. "But I remember a bike. Could it be her husband's old bike? He died years ago." Kat's eyes lit up. "If it's the same one, we might find it in her garage. That could tie her directly to the hit and run." They both turned their thoughts to Jacob, the only man among them with the authority and the determination to investigate without raising suspicion. Kat had raced down the corridor earlier, breathless with adrenaline, her heels clicking against the marble floors as she reached his office. But when she found him, he was still working through the forensic report, brow furrowed in frustration. "I'm telling you," Kat had said, voice urgent, "we have everything. Motivation, opportunity, means. Leslie concocted the wolf plot for you, Eva, and now she nearly killed Laura. The injections, the bike, it all points to her." Jacob looked up, exhaustion in his eyes. "I believe you," he said quietly. "But belief isn't evidence. We need something the DA can't ignore." And so they were trapped in a limbo of suspicion, hovering on the brink of revelation, but unable to push through the barrier of proof. As dusk fell over Fairmont Crest, the stakes rose to a fever pitch. Leslie, perched in her plush parlor suite, toyed with the remote control for the surveillance feeds. Her lips curved in satisfaction as she watched camera angles across the property, angles she knew like the back of her hand. None of them showed her approaching Laura's room. The one hidden blind spot had been her secret gift to herself. She sipped champagne and allowed herself a private chuckle. Kat thought she could talk to security? They'd have a hard time guarding Laura when Leslie knew every inch of the staffing rotations. Down the hall, Kat met with the head of security, Officer Ramirez, a hulking figure with a stern countenance. She laid out her concerns, voice firm as she demanded tighter patrols. "I want someone posted outside Laura's door, rotating shifts every 2 hours. No blind spots, no exceptions." Ramirez nodded. "We'll tighten the perimeter. Make sure to record every entry and exit." Kat exhaled, a tentative hope fluttering in her chest. If only the cameras had been rolling the night of the attack. If only. Meanwhile, Laura lay in bed, eyes closed, fists clenching the sheets as fear pressed against her throat. She had believed Fairmont Crest to be a place of refuge, a sanctuary far removed from the darkness she'd known. Now, she wondered if the darkest evil resided not in shadowy strangers, but behind the masks of those closest to her. As the first stars appeared in the sky, a hush settled over the estate. But beneath that calm, the gears of conspiracy turned ever onward. Leslie was already plotting her next move, determined to stay one step ahead of the trio striving for truth. And with every passing hour, the time until their worlds collided drew inexorably closer. Morning light filtered through heavy velvet drapes in the suite above the eastern wing. Jason Mitchell, Fairmont Crest's head of maintenance and an unwitting witness to Leslie's nocturnal prowling, emerged from a hidden service hatch, clutching a small toolbox. He had seen a figure slip into Laura's room hours before, an imprint in the carpet, a reflection in the window pane, the distinct smell of Jan Morgan's jasmine perfume. His conscience now warred with his loyalty, tell what he knew and risk Leslie's wrath, or remain silent and let justice slip through his fingers. Across the corridors, Eva Richardson met with Kat Donovan in hushed tones. Their plan: covertly search Leslie's private storage room, rumored to contain her collection of wigs and perhaps incriminating evidence, a vial of potassium, a blood-stained scarf, or even the helmet from the motorcycle. But the vault-like door was guarded by biometric locks and under constant surveillance. They would need a distraction. Eva swallowed hard. "I can create a diversion. Stage a medical emergency. They'll rush to my aid, and you slip inside." Kat hesitated, torn between protecting her friend and pursuing the truth. "If anything happens to you..." "I'll be fine," Eva interrupted, steeling herself. "It's my mother's legacy that's at stake. I have to know." Meanwhile, Leslie reclined in her suite's private garden, the scent of night-blooming jasmine swirling around her. She tightened a strand of pearls around her wrist and considered the trio. Eva, driven by shock and disbelief. Laura, the fragile pawn in her elaborate game. Kat, the brash investigator unable to see ties that bound them. And Jacob, too noble to suspect the true architect. All would fall into place soon enough. Tonight's diversion would be a masterstroke, One that would not only expose their meddling, but force them into the open, where she could deal with them as she saw fit. As dusk draped itself over the estate once more, the plan swung into motion. Eva collapsed in the grand ballroom, dramatic, blood-tinged hand over her heart, while Kat and Jacob sprinted to her side. In the commotion, Kat ducked into the service corridor and made her way to Leslie's chamber. Heart pounding, she scanned the wall of wig boxes, each labeled meticulously. Behind a false panel, she glimpsed a leather-bound journal and a small wooden box. Kat pried open the box to reveal a syringe cap and a single pill, evidence of tampering. Her breath caught. This was the smoking gun. But in the hallway, the sounds of footsteps. A guard alerted by an off-duty doctor echoed menacingly. Kat jammed the items into her coat pocket and slipped out, narrowly avoiding detection as she rejoined Jacob and the steadily reviving Eva. They convened in Laura's suite, the flickering lamplight casting long shadows on walls lined with family portraits. Papers, photographs, and now hardware from Leslie's own stash lay scattered across the bedspread. Jacob examined the syringe cap under a magnifying glass, brow furrowed in grim satisfaction. This can be tested. And if that pill matches the compound in Laura's bloodstream. Laura closed her eyes, tears of relief mingling with fear. We did it, she whispered. We finally did it. But their victory came at a cost. As Jacob made arrangements to transfer the evidence to his team, a soft click sounded at the door latch. All four turned, pulses hammering in their ears. Leslie stood framed in the doorway, wig slightly askew, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Bravo, she applauded, voice dripping with malice. You played right into my hands. The floor seemed to tilt beneath them as Leslie stepped forward, each movement measured. In her hand, she held the ornate dagger from the estate's private vault, a weapon she'd used before in darker times. You thought you could corner me, she continued, but Fairmont Crest is mine to command. Panic seized Laura as Kat lunged for her phone, Jacob for the evidence bag. But in one swift motion, Leslie slammed the door shut, the lock clicking ominously. Over the threshold, Leslie closed the distance, dagger raised. Outside, the distant sound of sirens, a call for backup Jacob had summoned moments before, drew nearer. Inside, hearts pounded in terror as the final confrontation loomed, truth and justice on one side, and a woman driven by madness and masked identities on the other. At the very edge of night and dawn, Fairmont Crest held its breath, waiting for the gates to swing open on a reckoning no one could have foretold. Leslie's smirk widened as she advanced across the dimly lit suite, dagger glinting in her hand. Laura's gasp caught in her throat. Kat's eyes darted frantically toward Jacob, who fumbled for his radio. Heart hammering, Eva pressed herself against the wall, mind racing through every whispered warning she'd ever heard about her mother's unhinged resolve. Stay back, Leslie hissed, voice low and dangerous, each syllable dripping with contempt. This ends tonight. Jacob lunged forward, grabbing Leslie's wrist before she could strike, but her grip was iron-strong. The dagger wavered, its point tilting toward Laura's trembling form. Kat sprang to Laura's side, pulling her to safety behind the sofa, while Eva let out a strangled sob. Mom, please, Eva cried, stepping between Leslie and her sister. You don't have to do this. We can fix it. You. Leslie's eyes flicked to Eva, a strange mix of pride and fury churning behind her gaze. For a heartbeat, her grip loosened, uncertainty flickering across her face. But then she snarled, wrenching her arm free and sending Jacob sprawling. He hit the floor with a thud, momentarily winded. Kat seized the moment, lunging toward Leslie with desperate courage. Her hand struck the back of Leslie's arm, knocking the dagger aside. The sharp clatter of steel on marble rang through the room, an alarming bell that matched the pounding in their chests. Outside, sirens wailed, a crescendo that echoed through the corridors of Fairmont Crest. Jacob yanked the door handle, rattling the lock, but it held fast. Kat's grip on Leslie faltered as she turned to help him. In that instant, Andre burst through the adjoining door, having raced from Eva's panicked call. He barreled into Leslie from the side, wrapping her in a bear hug that sent her crashing against the wall. The dagger skidded across the floor, sliding under the coffee table where Laura, Kat, and Eva stared at it in shared horror. Andre's strength pinned Leslie in place. Her wig slipped free, revealing Jan Morgan's familiar, and now terrifying, cascading hair. The ironed calm that had once defined her melted away, replaced by raw desperation. "You betrayed your family," Andre growled, voice trembling with anger. "You almost killed her." He turned Leslie's face toward him, eyes blazing. "Why?" Leslie's lips quivered. For a moment, she seemed small and vulnerable, the mad fury drained from her posture. Then, her features hardened, and she twisted in Andre's grip. "You don't understand," she spat. "None of you do." Jacob finally forced the lock, and the door burst open as security officers poured in. Uniformed figures converged on Leslie, stepping between her and her captive family. One officer seized her wrists, snapping on handcuffs with a click that sounded eerily final. Eva stumbled forward, throwing her arms around Laura, who sagged into her embrace, tears of relief staining her cheeks. Kat leaned against the doorframe, breath ragged, watching Leslie being escorted away. Jacob joined them, gently guiding Eva and Laura back toward the windows, where the fading moonlight painted their faces in silver. Silence settled, broken only by muffled voices in the hallway and the distant echo of sirens receding. Andre remained by Leslie's side, tightening the cuffs as he whispered something to the arresting officer. Then, reluctantly, he turned and walked back into the suite, his shoulders heavy with the knowledge of what his actions had cost him, a fractured family confronting the darkness within. Kat found Jacob's hand and squeezed it. "We did it," she murmured. "We stopped her." He nodded, eyes softening as he glanced at Eva and Laura, still clinging to each other. "Yeah," he said, voice taut with emotion. "But we'll need to rebuild." Everything she broke. Eva wrapped her arms around her sister once more. "We'll do it," she vowed, voice resolute. "Together." In the days that followed, Fairmont Crest buzzed with questions and hushed conversations. The police combed through Leslie's belongings, uncovering the elaborate disguises, the syringes, the journal entries detailing her plans to eliminate anyone who stood between her and the flawless facade she demanded. Jacob coordinated with detectives, providing security footage from blind spots now rendered obsolete by new cameras and patrols. Kat accompanied Laura to follow up medical tests, ensuring no trace of potassium or any foreign substance lingered in her system. Andre, torn between relief and heartbreak, visited Eva late one evening beneath the same moonlit sky where her doubts first took root. He found her in the garden, surrounded by guards, but lost in her own thoughts. "You were amazing," Eva whispered as he approached, voice low. "Thank you for stopping her." He offered a sad smile. "I did what I had to. But your mother. I wish I'd seen it sooner." Eva's eyes brimmed with tears. "So do I." Meanwhile, Jacob and Kat pored over the final pieces of evidence, handwritten confessions, hidden camera logs, and the motorcycle Leslie had used in her reckless hit-and-run. When the last file clicked into place, Jacob allowed himself a weary smile. "Case closed," he said, relief and exhaustion warring in his tone. As for Laura, each sunrise felt like a gift reclaimed. She took tentative steps back into her routines, morning coffee with Kat, laughter with Eva over silly trinkets in the gift shop, even a quiet word of thanks to Jan Morgan, whose arrest had shattered the illusion of maternal perfection. And at night, when the grounds fell silent once more, the gates of Fairmont Crest, a symbol of security and seclusion, felt sturdier than ever. Though the shadows would always linger in memory, the light of truth had pierced them, illuminating a path toward healing. In the end, What began as a twisted game of deception and revenge became a testament to resilience. A family nearly torn apart, patched back together through bravery, loyalty, and the unwavering belief that, even in the darkest corridors, justice could find its way.